future of human connection, and we want you to join us live. If you're watching us right now, just keep watching us. It could be on Facebook, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of those CES social channels, and you can find the entire schedule for what all the interviews are going to be over the next 2 days at ces.tech/C-Space-Studio. Once again, we are so glad to be sponsored by our friends at Integral Ad Science. So glad they're supporting the many great conversations we have here in the C-Space Studio. And speaking of great conversations, I am so excited to welcome our first guest of the day, returning champion, Scott Peretti. This is like your third or fourth time here. You're the president of Cats Digital. Welcome back to CES and the C-Space Studio.
It's great to be back and great to be the first one of the 2026.
Super excited to have you, and we'd love you to just recontextualize, how are you positioning Cats Digital right now? What does the brand mean in 2026?
It's as strong and growing as ever and evolving. So, we are, Cats overall is the largest media sales organization in the globe, bringing all kinds of traditional assets as well as digital. I oversee the digital components, and we are serving ads from marketers on every platform known to man, from CTV devices to audio devices to mobile device, everything.
So as you say, it keeps evolving, but you've said that 2026 is going to be a major inflection point. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's. I think 2026 is going to mark this, unique year where you're going to see technology and all of its evolutions come to play for how we've seen media consumption evolve, but also these unbelievably large cultural events that are going to take shape this year. Yeah. And so when I say that, I think about sports. Right, so I know you're spending time in Madrid now, so you're familiar with soccer. So you've probably heard of the World Cup.
Heard of it.
That's going to be happening this year. I live in New Jersey. I mean, that's all anybody's talking about. We're going to be hosting the final there, so that's going to be a huge global event. You got the Olympics. This weekend is coming up with wild card football. So many big cultural events around sports, and then politics. So in the back half of the year, we're going to have the midterm elections. And that's going to be another big, event that's going to take shape.
And these events, like these calendar events that are you kind of want to be watching them live, or at least maybe in the case of the Olympics, nearly live. That makes a difference, right? I mean, the fact that it's live is important.
Yeah, I think, there are very few things today that we consume live and consume as a community and as an event, whether it's local or global or national, whatever it is. So sports represents that, in a unique way. And I think advertisers want to take part in that kind of cultural, events that are happening. And we're going to try to find ways to enable them to do that.
And then the political cycle, 2026, obviously so much going on in politics in general, and all of that crashing into what the latest technological advancements are. What are you going to be watching for, and what are you going to frankly be driving yourselves and making happen on the technological side for politics?
I think our goal is to help these campaigns and marketers and issue advertisers reach consumers. So they've seen a lot of disruption to their business model and how they reach people. They've had traditional ways of doing that have been fairly easy and evolved over time, and that's changing. Yeah. So they're looking for companies like ours that have worked with them for multiple years to help guide them on the best way that they can reach those customers or those voters or the people that they can influence.
And what are some of the ways they can do that now that they weren't able to do in the past?
Well, I mean, even things as particular as geographical targeting, right? That digital enables them to do a county, a zip code, a congressional district. New things like, for them in podcasting. The last presidential election, there was so much talk around podcasting and the impact of that. Those are great, audiences to reach, and we're helping them do that across different states. And then clearly the fragmentation on the video side with CTV and so many different places to consume video content, we're working with them to enable that.
And how much do you think, I mean, maybe it's hard to quantify, but like, how much does that move the needle, right? Because we were talking a little bit before this. Politics is so hard to reach the people that you want to reach. There's a very narrow sliver of persuadable voters, and they might not be easy to get, and everyone's competing so voraciously for them. So how much is the tech going to help people really get ahead?
So they are. I mean, and you're right. Everybody's looking for that small group. Now, I think different elections are for different things. So you're going to see on the primary side, people really trying to get out their voters, their core voters, and reaching those audiences. But then when it comes to more general elections, or issue-based, they're really, those persuadables are hard to reach. So there's a lot of things happening as people compete about how do we get the best data? How do we find these people? How do we attack them in cross-screen or cross devices that they're engaging with to hit them once, hit them twice? And then does the message matter for the content that they're advertising in? We advocate it does. So changing the messaging and the creative to fit the environment that it's in to make it more impactful.
Testing.
Testing, absolutely.
You mentioned podcasting. Digital audio is huge, continues to be huge. I imagine you're going to tell me 2026 is going to be huge for digital audio too. Yeah.
No, it is going to be big. I mean, I think that's that intersection of unbelievable amount of diverse, great content that's out there and technology that enables you reach those people and engage with them. So it just gets honestly better and better every year. But it's still that core, James, like audio is just an intimate medium that you consume in a special environment that whether you're relaxing or getting hyped up for something or trying to learn something new or learn a language, whatever these things you're trying to do, those are great environments for marketers to reach people in and capture them with their message.
And do you think that's still true, or does something change in a world where more and more the definition of podcast might mean a YouTube podcast? Or in other words, it's something that you could consume audio only, but a lot of podcasts are also putting the interviews in video form on YouTube or maybe other video platforms too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I personally think of podcasting like storytelling, right? So it's like an intimate thing. So for me, I think the best way to engage and listen to podcasts for me personally is an audio, because it's where I'm kind of engaged with the most. But certainly, I personally engage in video podcasting, and there can be some video elements to it. So there's just crossover in all kinds of different media types. What's a movie? Is a movie something that you consume on a short video form? So all these things are crossing over, but they all represent opportunities for marketers.
I've been doing this almost 10 years now, and I've been having conversations about definitions of terms and how those terms are changing and what we all mean when we say these terms for that entire time. I'm sure we're going to continue to do that.
Sure.
Of course, the term everyone's talking about is AI. Tell me about humanity in the age of AI. We've been talking about reaching humans, but we're obviously using AI to do that. And tell me where you position yourselves around that topic.
Yeah, I mean, look, it could be self-serving for our business, but I believe in human relationships and humans learning and guiding the business. That doesn't mean that there's not a big place for AI, and we would be foolish if we weren't trying to embrace it or looking for ways to do that. So, in our business, we're looking at AI to help us kind of take away some of the more painful tasks, enable us to run a better business, a more efficient business, and optimize against the audiences we have. But we still believe in the human being, engaging with customers, hearing about needs, and responding to that in some way. And that's I see it as that's not going away for a long time.
Do you think customer opinions on AI-created content are shifting or changing? Are they more or less willing to accept it?
It's a great debate, and I don't think we've got an answer on it, a consensus on it. I think there's a lot of people, their gut reaction is no, they don't want it, they think it's bad in some way, but a lot of times they're fooled about what it is. I think there's ways to use AI content, creative content, even from tags on the ads to be more efficient in terms of things. But I think there's still real value in humans creating content and that getting distributed.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you could have a fully human-created piece of content and then have so much AI on the back end and still be kind of ahead of the game.
Correct.
In that scenario. That said, I do have a confession.
Sure.
Since you and I know each other so well.
Yes.
This year, this moment I'm going to mark in my life is like the first time I've been listening to some AI-created, not totally generated, but it's cover songs of songs I already knew, AI covers. They were so good, I listened to them unironically.
Okay.
Not even for the novelty, but because I've actually enjoyed them. So I feel the shift in myself, and I'm curious to see how this goes.
I mean, good content is good content.
That's right.
So if it's producing that in a way that you want to engage with it,
I'll tell you what's always good content.
Yes.
Conversation with Scott Peretti.
Oh, terrific.
Of Cats Digital. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure to be with you.
Have a great CES, Scott.
You too. Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching us. Stay tuned for more C-Space Studio. I'm James Kotecki at CES 2026. More after this short break. Welcome back to the C-Space Studio. I am James Kotecki here at CES 2026, and I am joined by the Ad Council's very own Vice President of Emerging Media, Lori Keith. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, the Ad Council. We've all seen, I think everybody in America at least, has seen some product of the Ad Council, but can you just quickly define for us what the scope of it, what the Ad Council is?
Yeah, so we are the nation's leading nonprofit for over 80 years, have worked across the marketing industry with the nation's best creative storytellers to educate, unite, and uplift Americans, opening hearts, inspiring action, and really accelerating behavior change around the most critical issues in America, from mental health to youth firearm safety. And so we really work across the industry, ad agencies, tech companies, media companies, talent, and it allows us to have exponential impact because we're really like galvanizing the whole industry to get resources to Americans.
And I mean, we're here to talk about emerging media, obviously, but people have seen your billboards, people have seen your television ads. Smokey Bear, is that the most popular thing that the Ad Council?
Smokey's been around since 1942, since our inception. Usually when I say, have you heard of the Ad Council, have you heard of Smokey Bear, then everyone is like, yes, Ad Council.
But I think,
yes.
But once people are locked into it, I think they probably can see it a lot of different places. But that brings us here to CES 2026.
Yes.
So what are you here for? What's your message?
Super Bowl of technology.
That's right.
So I come every year, I lead emerging media and technology for the Ad Council, and really my remit is to work with technology partners, media partners across the industry to encourage them to look at technology as a force for good. How can we, especially as you're building this technology, reach Americans, provide them with the resources that they need, bring communities together, harm reduction, whatever that campaign might be that our what we're trying to raise awareness on. I'm really like partnering with tech companies, and I'm here at CES to really encourage all of our partners to think about the Ad Council and all the issues that we represent, and how can we kind of come together to build partnerships and raise awareness using these products that they're building.
So what's the full remit of what's defined as emerging media? So social media obviously comes to mind, but there's a lot of interesting things emerging, especially here at CES when you see new technologies that could point to media that not everyone's consuming now, but maybe there's interesting things in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. Social media used to be kind of the new media, but now it's considered traditional media because as a brand, if you're not advertising on social, you're probably not have the smartest marketing mix. But emerging media for us is really like thinking about the future. What is the future of media consumption? What is the future of how people are kind of shifting their behaviors from one platform to the next? So everything from immersive technology, gaming environments, augmented reality, wearables, drone technology. We were the first, Smokey Bear was the first to advertise on those robotic delivery vehicles that now you see all over the place. So really, like, what is media going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years, and how can we start to build relationships there?
Okay, great. So then you can give us the answer then. We need it here in the C-Space Studio. What is media going to look like over the next 5 years? Give us your prediction. And I love predictions other people might not find plausible, but what do you think what you said?
I mean, I think, of course, everyone's talking about agentic AI and how AI is going to really power our lives and assist us in all our tasks, from booking travel to managing our finances. But what I'm really interested in, especially, I live in Miami, I just went to Art Basel, and I'm sure you heard of Beeple's Regular Animals exhibit, humanoid robots with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg's face. It was so realistic, and it really made me think about, like, what is the future of this technology? These humanoid robots, are they going to be, at the airport doing customer service?
Sure.
But from even beyond that, like from a society impact, being able to like partner with firefighters to help stop a wildfire from spreading. So to me, I do think it's coming. I don't know how realistic they will look like, if they'll look like the Beeple exhibit, but I do think it's coming. I think they're gonna look and feel like a human.
That's so interesting. As people are talking about, like, just basic questions about what the capability is to do, to then think forward and think about that as a form of media, as a form of interacting with consumers, is like the next level to think. And another thing that comes to mind, I was here at the Sphere a couple days ago, and I got to see The Wizard of Oz.
I heard it's amazing.
And I have to say, when you're in that tornado, It was freaking me out. Like I knew logically what was happening, but the emotion of it is so strong with the wind and the leaves and the screen, obviously. You could put me in a forest fire with Smokey Bear, and I will never light a match in the woods ever again, right?
I know. Those immersive environments really take you places. I love that.
So maybe beyond robots, are there other technologies that you're kind of obsessing over right now or kind of wanting to dig deeper into?
Yeah, so I think drone technology, I know some people are talking about it, but we did a partnership with a company called Sustainable Skylines that has a partnership with FAA. And we did kind of the first drone technology. They pulled a 40 by 20 foot banner on Miami Beach, which typically Miami Beach, you see the airplanes going by, but this was powered by a human on the ground, pulling a banner. It was for our Buzz Driving is Drunk Driving campaign over Thanksgiving weekend. So it was perfect placement for it. And so I think, yes, aerial advertising is probably going away. It's probably going to be drones. But also if you think about the future of drones, delivering packages, going from point A to point B, like that's going to be a new surface for advertisers to think about.
Yeah, smart people have talked to me about drones, say the drone is there and the drone can be doing a lot of different things. It can be doing, safety, surveillance, and it can be doing advertising, and it can be doing packaging, logistics, and coordinating with other drones in the air. And there's so many interesting things.
If you think about the localization of it, depending on where it is, all these advertisers and brands that have very local efforts, to be able to advertise where that drone is going to be critical.
You mentioned agentic AI, but let's pull it back even just to chatbots, right? So when you think about advertising and chatbots and way to reach consumers, this is probably going to be a big topic, I imagine, this year here in the C-Space studio for folks.
Yes.
Because, okay, we can chat with these things, but where's the revenue coming from? Do we advertise in them? Does that make them less authentic or less useful for people? Where are you coming out on this and what are you seeing?
Well, I think chat experiences is what I'm calling them, is really interesting space, especially for the ad council as you think about these emotionally charged issues. When a person lands on a website right now, they're navigating it, pushing different buttons, reading articles, hopefully getting what they need. But if you can now land on our site and have a conversation with us, share your personal experience and be able to get the resources in a very specific way, I think that's really interesting for us, and as well as brands and advertisers, really just understanding actually intent behind what people need when they come to your site and are looking for your brand. So that's what I think we're focused on this year, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
Okay. So the chatbot recommends something to me, I click on the link, but then the website is somehow configured in a way that maybe it has some access to my previous chat history, presumably I've given it permission for that, but then it's able to kind of give me what I need in a more direct and focused way because I've now gone to the website through that portal.
Well, there is what you're describing, which is generative engine optimization, being able to make sure that your information surfaces in a chat GPT. Yeah. I think that's really critical, but it's also just when someone sees one of our ads, is driven to our website, and now they can have a chat experience with us that's powered by a large language model like Copilot Studio, which is Microsoft's enterprise product, and they can literally have this chat GPT experience within our website, but the bot is created with only our data.
And mental health is an issue for the ad council as well,
yes,
right?
Yes, very big issue.
And so obviously that plays right into people's experiences having these fairly sometimes intimate conversations with chatbots and wanting that to be hopefully uplifting for people.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's talk about creators and influencers.
Yes.
Where are you coming out on that? Is that still a form of emerging media that you're interested in?
Absolutely. We developed our Creators for Good practice at the Ad Council over 10 years ago. We partner with everyone from Elmo to Meg the Stallion to Billie Eilish.
Wait, Elmo's counts as an influencer? Like what chance do I have if Elmo's out there? There's no chance.
Elmo is like top influencer. But it is a key strategy for the Ad Council. We know that the messenger is just as important as the message. And so for us, we need to make sure, in addition to these incredible media partnerships that we have, like who are those spokespeople that have real experiences that can really talk and share and help Americans, get the resources they need.
We have so many different things that we could be talking about here. I do want to at least get in a question about podcasting.
Okay.
So podcasting and audio listening habits are evolving. Where is the Ad Council in that conversation? Especially, again, one of those intimate things that maybe historically has been hard to reach people in.
Yeah, podcasting, streaming audio is a huge avenue for us. Of course, we have an omnichannel approach. We want to make sure that our messages go far and wide. But for us, being able to partner with a podcast, these hosts are considered friends of the audience. They're subscribing, they're checking in every day. And so we always identify what are the podcasts. For example, The Skim had a podcast called Well Played. We have athletes as part of our mental health campaign. So Lori Hernandez, Lexi Brown from the WNBA, they went on, they shared their mental health stories in a 15, 20-minute interview,
Yeah.
which that's so much goes far and wide than like a 30-second PSA running on your TV. So we find them to be these really nuanced, long format media platforms that allow us to really go deep and far and wide with our issues.
Well, thank you for going so deep and far and wide with all of the topics on emerging media today. Lori Keith, the Ad Council.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us here.
Yeah, have a good one.
And thank you so much for watching us. We're here at CES 2026. This is the C-Space Studio. I'm James Kotecki, coming right back to you after a short break. Welcome back to the C-Space Studio with me, your host, James Kotecki, here at the very fabulous CES 2026. And I'm here with NBC Universal's President of Advertising and Partnerships, Karen Kovacs. Karen, welcome.
Thank you so much, James. I'm so excited to be here.
NBC Universal, I've heard of them. I'm sure many people have too. But I always love to ask people to define their own brands and what the scope is and what you define it as. So what is NBC Universal to you?
Well, NBC this year in particular, it will host the biggest, most exciting cultural moments of 2026. So think about the Super Bowl, the Olympics, World Cup, Emmys, Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah.
That is what this year looks like for us. We are one of the biggest investors in premium content. We reach 286 million people across the largest ad-supported footprint in the industry. So we're big. And we're really excited. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
Very exciting. And we're really looking ahead to combine premium content, cutting edge technology, and all that scale I just talked about, and really drive results for our advertising partners.
To put you in the hot seat, is one of those events your favorite? Are you most looking forward to of the things that you listed, all those sporting events?
I am most looking forward to the Olympics.
Yes.
Because I think what we do at the Olympics is not only groundbreaking storytelling, but also the way, and I think we'll talk about this today, the way we think about it from a technology standpoint, it really has revolutionized and galvanized our company.
So this is interesting. I've been doing this job for a while now, so I've had multiple conversations with folks over the years about the different Olympicses that were coming up. What are you excited about in terms of a technology perspective or from a content consumption perspective that's going to be new, different, exciting at the 2026 Winter Games?
I think we learned so much in Paris, right? And it was really groundbreaking for us in multiple ways. Really just the first is the massive scale, right? It was available on linear, streaming, social. So the first thing I'll say is that 86% of the viewers watched on linear television. So linear and streaming together, it is critical for our partners. But we also did a lot of experimentation in Paris that really resonated. And one of the things we did was we created a creator community. And it was so successful, we're bringing it back to Milan. So it is called the Milan Creator Collective, and we are bringing 25 creators with unrivaled access into the Olympic environment. And it's exciting. Some of them had some experience from Paris, some new voices, but the key is how do we bring some of the casual fans, the new fans, into the Olympic movement. And the creators are really doing things in a way that complements our own storytelling. So excited about that.
And the Olympics is so good for that too, because it's not necessarily, like I'm not watching ski jumping at other times of the year just to make a confession, but when it's on at the Olympics, it's cool. It's like a new kind of novel thing that I'm only watching every few years. And so, yeah, I certainly am a casual fan of those sports. And to bring me in and to bring people in different ways depending on their level is probably important.
You know what's interesting? One technology that we launched in Paris and we've carried through other sports and entertainment is multi-view. So on streaming, we added multi-view for the first time in Paris. So you are a skiing fan, but you're not sure if you want to tune in to skiing or ice skating. And so you could have multi-views to decide, right, where do I want to go now? And putting the control of the experience in the hands of the viewer is exactly where we want to go moving forward.
So from an advertising and partnerships perspective, how are you measuring success? What are you aiming at here in the year 2020?
Measurement is really going to be a key area of focus for us this year. We firmly believe that premium video drives results. But in a world where measurement has been somewhat fragmented, right? So you've had linear television and digital disconnected, right? They've been in silos. Upper, middle, and lower funnel performance has been disconnected. So advertisers haven't necessarily had a full view of the effectiveness of their campaigns. So going into this year, and really for the past few years, we've been thinking about how do we invest in tools and technology so that we can provide advertisers with a full view. And one thing we're launching this year is something called the Performance Insight Hub, which is really groundbreaking for us. It is a platform where we can provide a unified view of campaign performance, audience insights, and then also full funnel performance in flight. So like historically, we have been able to provide marketers with post-campaign static reporting. And now with this platform, we are going to be able to provide real-time view of insights and full funnel performance with enough time to optimize performance and deliver results.
Does it imply real-time ability to change? And make
again, we do believe, that premium video really delivers performance, but this tool now really enables us to measure it and optimize it for our partners.
Premium video drives results. That makes sense to me, but I want to talk about what it might mean to a Gen Z or even a Gen Alpha audience. And I don't even know if we need to have a discussion about what the definition of premium video means for a generation that's raised on vertical video, that understands that content creator, relatively rough, where they're just holding the mic in their hands, and the whole thing is completely different modality. So what does that mean for those audiences?
Yeah, no, we think about Gen Z all the time, and we think about it, we need to be where they are, and we need to speak to them authentically. So for Peacock, we knew mobile. Yeah, well, thank you, our streaming service, of course. We knew mobile was going to be a game changer right from the start. So, we invested in our mobile app and we added vertical video last year. So vertical video for us includes everything from highlights and short form content and exclusive looks. So over the past year, we have seen short form drive views by over 250%. So we know it's really reaching that Gen Z audience. And so for the first time, we are offering vertical video advertising. We're opening it up to advertisers. Now that we know it exists, we've got the engagement, and now we've got the content. So bringing them in is really meaningful. I'll also say we do have programming that resonates with that Gen Z audience. Love Island USA on Peacock was the #1 streaming program reaching Gen Z. So we're thinking about them. Again, the social creators too. That was also an important point, a way for us to bring some of that younger audience into our world.
So speaking of Peacock, where is streaming going for you? What do you see for 2026? Everybody wants to win that.
There's so many ways. At the heart of it is providing that customized, interactive experience. Broadly, we're seeing real excitement in shopification, right? Shopping, I think we're in the early innings on what that's going to look like, and we've been an early adopter for shopping, so that's important to us. Gamification, live sports, right? Sports betting, but also predictive gaming. That's something that we've added into Peacock. And then personalization. Again, the multi-view, that vertical video. So those are 3 broad trends. I think from an ad innovations perspective, we're doing 2 things that are interesting. One is, we've got some really unique ad units that perform so well, and we're selling them directly to advertising. Now we're opening them up programmatically. Okay. So the pause ad, right, which works so well, contextually relevant to that pause moment, now we will be able to include that in programmatic guarantee deals. The second thing is we're thinking so much about creating that native or that ad unit that adds value to the experience. And we are launching a unit called the arrival ad. So it's sort of a bold first time for a streaming partner to take that user profile page and add an interactive brand moment right on first entry. So it's a little bit of that first impression takeover, very visible, but it doesn't interfere with the viewer's ad experience, right? So we're really excited. We think that there's a lot of opportunities with ad innovations. It goes back to our goals.
Yeah, I mean, I said the word win streaming. It occurs to me there's different ways to win, or maybe there's different games being played, right? Of course you want to get the raw numbers and have the biggest, the biggest audiences across whatever audiences you want. But you also, if you're creating content that people are resonating with so much and you're able to reach them through advertising, then there's ways to win there, especially on a revenue or advertising and partnerships basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just seems like it's a great time. Do you feel like, are you excited to be in your business in this moment of technology? Do you feel like this is the right moment to blast off?
I'm so excited to be in this business. It's really just, we launched Peacock. It was the first ad-supported streamer, right? So we've always been toggling between keeping, the viewer experience at the heart of what we do, but then also delivering results for advertisers. So it's interesting to be able to look at it from both lenses, really increase that engagement. We have this one community, one fandom around Bravo, right? And so we can talk about live sports all day, but we also have this really unique connection to Bravo and streaming and experiential and all of the different ways that we're investing in that. Really, there's so much potential there to really just go deeper with fans. And then of course, we run advertising partnerships. So it's really a unique way to bring these brands into culture along with us.
Well, thank you for bringing us along with you for some insight into what's going on at NBC Universal for 2026. Karen Kovacs, really appreciate you joining us here in the C-Space studio.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for watching. This is CES 2026. This is the C-Space studio. This is your host, James Kotecki, and I'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2026. I'm your host, James Kotecki, here with iHeartMedia's Chief Business Officer, Lisa Coffey. Welcome to the C-Space studio.
Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you. We've spoken to other folks from iHeartMedia in the past, this is your first time here in the C-Space studio. We're so glad to have you. What brings you and what brings iHeartMedia to CES 2026?
Yeah, we're here talking about our guaranteed human promise. What does that mean? It means all of our content, our radio hosts, our podcast, everything is going to be guaranteed human, nothing artificially created. Obviously, AI is going to be one of the biggest conversations here at CES this week, and rightfully so. AI makes us smarter, better, faster, but it also has pushed consumers and humans to really gravitate towards these live experiences, live trusted content. Trust is one of the biggest things that's coming up with the creation of AI, and so we're really leaning into that messaging. The second part is we currently have a product in beta right now called Audiograph. Very exciting time for the industry because what we're doing is making broadcast radio addressable, measurable, and programmatically transactable for the industry at large. So we're really excited about that. And so what we're doing here is marrying a mass scale medium of audio with precision and accountability that tech is giving us.
And just to remind folks, and correct me if I'm wrong, iHeartMedia is all about radio stations all around the United States and live events all around the United States. Can you just maybe explain the full scope
Correct.
of what?
Yeah, so we have 850 personalities, close to that in radio stations.
Real human personalities.
Real human. 10,000 events. We get really down into local markets. What we have, while we're very national in nature, for sure, the connection and the trust that we have in local communities is like nothing else because we're really in so many markets. In time of crisis, people turn to radio to understand what's happening. And so that allows us to get at the event level as well, local market, sports programming, so a ton of great assets and content that we produce.
I like the idea of a guaranteed human promise. As a human who wants to keep doing my job too, I like the idea of guaranteeing that. But I'm curious, who are you promising that to? Do you explicitly say that to consumers? Do you run ads on radio stations saying this is all human stuff, or is that a promise made to advertisers? Or
We do.
You do. Okay.
Yes, it's both.
Tell me more.
Actually. So you'll start, if you hear an iHeart radio station, you will hear a tag at the end saying guaranteed human.
Yes.
You also hear it in our podcast. So it's a tag that we've added at the end of everything, and it's. When I tell you it's resonating with clients like nothing else I've ever seen. We've had clients say, good move, really smart. Because so everybody's being caught up and people know when they're being, fed the news algorithm or the music algorithm and they're hearing and listening to the same music over and over and they're not getting that new discoverability. And so the guaranteed human is really resonating.
Do you think human consumers, well, it's funny I say human consumers, I guess you could talk about agentic AI consumers at some point.
Right.
But when we think about consumer perceptions of AI, have you felt or seen a real shift? Because I guess if I was having this conversation with someone here in the C-Space studio 2 years ago, it might have been a guaranteed AI promise, right? We're so excited about the promise of this. So what do you think has happened and what does that point to where things are going as far as the shift? Because AI is certainly not going anywhere. It's continuing to get better and it's going to keep progressing.
I hope it does.
So I'm curious about your sense of how that has shifted and where that is shifting.
Yeah, so we have because we talk to consumers every day, 24/7 basically, we do over 50,000 studies, consumer studies a year. And in October, we did a study called Human Consumer. And it was eye-opening and yet really not shocking because what we've seen is that consumers are now distrust the news. They feel more isolated than ever because of social media. They liked social media better when it was just about family and friends. And so we've really seen the reverse trend. Like, technology is important. Everybody wants it. Everybody loves it. But the consumers are really demanding more of that human connection. And that is, why we're leaning into it, because of what the consumers are telling us. And so while 70% of consumers are using AI, 90% want their media from a real human. And so the stats we've learned were really we're using to lean into and deliver to our consumers in the way that they want.
That's interesting. I mean, does it speak to also changing patterns of attention? You know, if people think that something is, if people see something as too AI generated, they kind of shift their attention elsewhere.
Yes.
And sub-question, do we need to also zoom out and not just talk about attention patterns in terms of AI, but just what, you know, even if you take AI out of the picture, just kind of how consumer patterns are changing overall?
Yes, no, it's absolutely right, and why, you know, any brand can be one swipe away from being removed from what they're viewing, and so the algorithm is, well, people love it. People are moving more towards that live and craving that.
So tell me about the work that you're doing with creators and influencers now, and how those humans are kind of brought into the conversation.
Yep. So iHeart is the original influencer network, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I live in New York, listen to Z100 in the morning, Elvis Duran, or you know, Charlemagne.
People connecting with these specific personalities.
They connect, and really when you start to, when you think about influencers and you listen to the radio in the morning and you're like, oh my God, they're bringing up topics of what's new, what's relevant, like what happened yesterday, what's happening right now. They have consumers call in, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is actually an influencer network. And so number one, that's very cool to understand. But what's new for us is that TikTok approached us, right? Here you have one of the largest social media platforms with millions of influencers who approached iHeart because influencers want that live element. They want new platforms. They want to get additional scale. And so we created a partnership that's launching this year, which is really cool. We're going to be creating 25 influencer-created podcasts. Mm-hmm. We're going to be creating TikTok radio and marrying TikTok influencers with our radio personalities to really start to cultivate the culture from these live moments that are happening. We'll also have them at our live events, and this gives brands tremendous opportunity to appear at these live events in ways that you know, they can use their influencers or net new influencers. So.
And this is where those maybe conceptual silos of like traditional, old school, new school, emerging media, it all kind of breaks down, right? Because it's all media. And from the consumer perspective, they probably don't really care. They're just turning on a button and getting what they want to get. And what you're talking about is really bringing everything together into one pot.
Yeah, it's really, it's. I think it's going to be a very cool program for us in 2026.
Do you want to talk more about your programmatic offering too that you're doing here? Tell us more about the significance of that for brands and advertisers.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Audiograph, which we have in beta right now. Why I'm most excited about this opportunity is one thing that people don't realize is only 30% of audio is in programmatic pipes or available programmatically, right? And so what you're really talking about are podcasts and streaming. Mm-hmm. And if only 30% of audio is available, that leaves 70% that is still, you know, the heavy lifting of IOs and transacting in that way. And so making that other 70% addressable and measurable really levels the playing field and puts the inventory in the pipes and at the fingertips of buyers and traders and measurable in the way that the industry expects and is demanding. And so we're really excited. iHeart's really excited to come to the table with that offering. And what that'll do also is increase audio inventory by 400%. So you're never, you know, you're no longer looking at having to just look at streaming. You can actually be part of the live programming throughout the day, whether it be Olympics, World Cup, all of the things that we also do outside of just, you know, talk radio and music. So.
This is something we talked about in the C-Space studio before. Is there still a gap between the consumption of audio and the amount of advertising dollars that go into audio?
Yeah, simple stat. Audio is 31% of a consumer's day. And so it's, you know, it's not 31% of media budgets. And so there's tremendous opportunity.
Of their media day or of their day?
Of their day.
That kind of tracks for me. If I'm just walking around,
sorry,
I've got
media day.
sorry. Okay. Well, for me, maybe it is 31% of my day. Like,
right.
I love to have my headphones on, listening to music all the time, or podcasts, or what have you. But thank you so much for spending time of your day here with us,
Great
Lisa
to be
Coffey
here.
of iHeartMedia. Really appreciate you being here in the C-Space studio.
Thanks so much.
And thank you so much for joining us. We're taking a break, but after that, we're going to be back with Qualcomm, United Underwriters Laboratory, ULSE, I'm so sorry about that, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Intuit SMB Media Labs. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you then. I'm James Kotecki here at the C-Space studio at CES 2026. It's Underwriters Laboratory. That's what it is. We'll be back with them soon, too. Welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2026. I'm your host, James Kotecki, and we're here with Qualcomm's CMO, Don McGuire. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, James.
Really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I know CES is a busy time. There's a lot going on. So I love to have people define their brands and what it means to you. So what is Qualcomm? What is your definition?
Well, from a brand perspective, obviously it's also a corporate identity.
Yeah.
The name of the company, 40th birthday last year.
Birthday. Yeah.
Just turned 40. From a master brand perspective, it's really sort of the umbrella brand of where everything fits underneath. We have two large product brands, Snapdragon being our more consumer-facing brand, and there's several product categories that fit under the Snapdragon portfolio, and then Dragonwing, which is more of our sort of B2B product lines.
Yeah.
That covers things like robotics and connectivity and things like that. I would say we're kind of a mini house of brands.
Okay.
And each have a unique identity and story to tell, but they all sort of ladder up to our overarching promise, which is to deliver intelligent computing everywhere.
Intelligent computing everywhere. Is that your message here for CES 2026? What brings you to this specific show?
Yeah, that's how we kind of ladder things up. We're in a lot of different product categories. Our technology is so pervasive, it can be overwhelming and complex if you don't sort of organize it under like a messaging architecture and how you bring it to life and make it understandable for people, especially different audiences.
Yeah.
So we tend to look at our sort of our hierarchy of what does Qualcomm stand for? Why do we exist? Why do we matter? And that's sort of to deliver intelligent computing everywhere. The intelligence is a nod to AI, which we've been in for 14 years. Computing is our processing power, our compute power high performance, low power, which we're known for. And then the everywhere is a nod to our history and connectivity. 3G, 4G, 5G, and now coming up 6G. So that's
sense
how
of
we
being in the
organize
physical world, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how we organize everything, and then underneath that we have our unique value propositions.
Because this is a C-Space studio, we can get into the weeds a little bit on this messaging piece, and I'm actually curious, how long, so what you said was very elegant and very eloquent and very, compact. Did that take a long time to get to that point? Like, these can be, not rebranding even, but like messaging processes can be really intense, especially when you have so many different complex technologies. And by the way, those aren't standing still, those are continuing to evolve. So tell me how you thought about even putting that together.
Creating simple is really hard. It really is. You think it wouldn't be, but it is, because you have the distillation of very complex technology into a, I don't want to call it a soundbite, but to an articulation that can fit. We have a process called 330. So a 3-second post, social post, a 30-second elevator conversation, a 3-minute sort of introductory, and a 30-minute presentation. So we have to create messaging that can be distilled down to that 3-second level, all the way to like a PowerPoint deck.
Yeah. Well, thanks for this 10-minute conversation. This is somewhere in the nether zone here, but we're going to figure out, I think, some interesting insights from this. One of the things we wanted to dive into with you was AI chatbots and voice agents. What are some of the things that you're learning from how consumers and customers interact with those?
What we're really excited about and what we're learning crosses a couple vectors. First is discoverability. And we're just at the beginning of this, right? So the agentic AI sort of, call it a trend now, but it will be pervasive, and it will be the way we interact with computers in the future. It will be, 3 years ago, I think we came up with the term AI is the new UI. And so how you interact with your computers or your computing spaces through agentic experiences is going to be the way we interact with our digital worlds. So what we're learning is, through what is available today, is that what's coming tomorrow is going to be more suggestive, more anticipatory, and actually be more helpful than prompt and response. It'll be, like you said, natural language processing, so it'll be more natural as you're walking through your day or moving through your day. You can have a conversation with an agent. Your agent can be more proactive, suggest things to you, and it's all going to come through these devices that are in your sort of personal world and personal ecosystem.
Do you think the term agentic is clear enough in terms of how everybody is understanding it, or is it relatively muddled or different depending on who's using that term? I'm asking kind of a leading question there.
Sure. I mean, I think it means, right now it means different things to different people. I think ultimately the nirvana is just a natural way to interact with your computing spaces. It's been sort of dubbed by industry speak as agents. Some people are calling them personas. Some people are calling them companions. And as AI goes from being trained to actually reasoning on its own, it will feel more like a companion-like experience. Like I said, more proactive, more suggestive, and less like agent in the typical historical definition of what an agent is.
Yeah, I mean, some people I think use it to mean it's just going to be something that goes out completely on its own, just operates in the world on its own with no human interaction. You're talking about something, honestly, that sounds like making it just more human. Like if I had a real person next to me, they wouldn't act just like an LLM. They might make some suggestions and do things like that. So it's just a more humanizing way of doing it.
Right.
Let's talk shoppable content. This is always an exciting topic for us here in the C-Space studio. What's going on there and with social commerce and the work that you're doing?
I'll give you two experiences that we've been working through. Our compute business, our PC business, is sort of our most consumer-facing with Snapdragon. So we launched about a year and a half, 2 years ago into the PC space. There are now hundreds and hundreds of Snapdragon-powered AI PCs in the world that are really, really, really amazing. And so in marketing our story to our audiences, we've done a couple different really cool things. So we just did this holiday partnership with Amazon, where we did a partnership with Josh Peck, if you remember Josh and Drake, or Drake and Josh. And we did some real-time live. It's sort of like a mixture of QVC meets sort of digital space and shoppable content that was really successful for driving all the metrics that you want to drive when you're trying to sell something. And the second piece is we made Oprah's favorite things list. For the first time, a PC. She chose a PC. It was a Snapdragon-based PC to be on her list. And so we partnered with Oprah's Favorite Things, and we wrapped ourselves around the shopping experience to go find her favorite things that made the list. Okay. So we wrapped ourselves around powering her application, the discoverability of all the products, and we sort of injected the Snapdragon brand into that experience as well.
Is it fair to say that the experience of shopping and the experience of consuming media and being a consumer of advertising, all that's kind of like blurring and blending together, right?
It's very nonlinear.
And from a consumer perspective, they probably never thought about it in terms of different buckets, and they're just like doing what they want to do in that moment.
They're just doing what they want to do.
How about AI for creative purposes, generative AI? Mm-hmm. Tell me about your philosophy there around how and when humans are still in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, we have a philosophy from a marketer's perspective, right? We've been deploying, experimenting with AI tools for a few years now. Our motto is human-led, AI-powered. There has to be human touch at the beginning, in the middle, and the end, for a lot of reasons. One is owning IP. Our lawyers love that.
Sure.
But also just in order to feel authentic. I did a speakership a while ago where if you have to worry about whether someone's going to think what you're telling them was AI generated or not, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Right? You've already done something wrong.
Yeah.
But if you can incorporate AI into the process, whether it's ideation, creation, but you still get an output that feels authentic to who you are, the story that you're telling, then that's where AI is really powerful.
Yeah. I love that idea that if you're having to think about it, then you've already lost. Because, and even in the best case scenario, maybe they're not offended by it, but they've spent time thinking about that when they should have been thinking about the thing that you're trying to advertise them in. Brain space is very limited and precious.
Sure.
Right? Attention is very precious. One thing people have attention on right now is smart glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think about that, and how is your technology coming into play there?
Well, and kind of in the space of personal AI, right? There's all these intelligent wearables that are going to be coming to market. Glasses, we believe, is a huge market. We are partners with every glass maker, smart glass maker, besides one. So whether it's Meta Ray-Bans, sure, or the Oakleys or whatever it might be, and the Android XR, the Samsung glasses. So we've been in this for a really long time, and we really feel like the glasses market is going from nascent to moving into mainstream.
Yeah.
And so we're excited about it because we believe glasses will be a distinctive compute platform for personal AI, both either tethered to another device like a phone or a puck, or even on its own. Our technology is that good, right? Yeah. It can power performance, battery life, and a lot of the experiences that you can have through glasses, whether it's augmented, or through camera, or through natural language processing. So we're really excited about the market and where it's headed.
And this has been a technological dream. It's been hyped, it's been joked about, it's been a long time in the making, and basically it sounds like what you're saying is basically the technology is just finally there to actually make this happen.
Absolutely, and it feels natural for people, right? You put on a pair of this latest generation of the Meta glasses, they feel like sunglasses,
yeah,
or regular glasses, and it took us a while to get there, but we're there.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Don McGuire, CMO, Qualcomm International. Thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem.
And thank you so much for joining us. This is the C-Space Studio at CES 2026. I am James Kotecki, so excited to be hosting another conversation right after this. Hey, welcome back to the C-Space studio. I'm your host, James Kotecki. We're at CES 2026, and we are here with UL Standards and Engagement's President and CEO, Jeff Marudian. Jeff, thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me, James.
Okay, UL Standards and Engagement. Tell us what that brand is and what it represents.
Well, UL Standards and Engagement has more than a century-old legacy of safety science and in making sure that products that are in our homes and that we're traveling with are safe. We work globally to collaborate to ensure that that's the case.
Yeah, so this is like, if I look at a light bulb, I remember staring at a light bulb once and seeing this little marker, this little UL symbol, right? That's part of the overall nature of this, right? That someone has vetted that when I plug this light bulb in, it's going to be safe, it's not going to explode or catch fire or anything else dangerous.
That's right, and our origin story is really based on the advent of electricity and all of the technologies that were enabled more than a century ago. And as we fast forward to today, we're living in a rechargeable society where people are carrying devices that are battery-based technologies.
Yeah.
So our focus now is on the safety of those types of devices.
So obviously CES is like the perfect place for you to be in conversation with everybody who's bringing current and new and almost on the cusp of coming out technological and electronic and battery-powered devices. But what specifically brings you to CES 2026? What's your message here today?
Our focus is and will continue to be around safety. We have a long history of work in building safety standards collaboratively with industry, and we're here talking about the importance of safety, not as an afterthought in product development, but really as a foundational element.
Yeah, so tell me more about what that looks like when it's done well. Can you take me through the process of how the safety conversation goes, integrated into the development process itself?
Sure. Well, breakthrough technologies are empowered to scale when safety leads. And what we know is we just released a report this week along with CTA talking specifically about digital health tools. But what we saw loud and clear from executives was that their priority is focused on safety at the outset, knowing that that helps build trust for consumers.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about digital health, there's so many interesting ways to kind of track, but all these things are going on our bodies, right? Or they need to be on or near our bodies to be able to track these things. And we're in the C-Space studio, we talk about it, even just from a brand or marketing perspective, a few bad cases, even if it was a small minority of things going wrong, can probably just wreck a product that could otherwise be very useful.
Absolutely, and we think of ourselves as really the bridge between innovation and trust, and that's why we partner very closely with manufacturers, with technology developers, to ensure that their focus is on safety as well from the outset.
Tell me about trust. How do you build trust in a fractured, ever-evolving media landscape that is just more AI generated by the minute, and people often lack trust in institutions and media?
Well, absolutely. That's certainly something that we see in our own data. Especially, you touched on AI, as many folks here at CES are focused on AI as a component of all new technologies. And we know that as those technologies become more and more ubiquitous, people have questions, genuine questions about their safety. And so we're focused on ensuring that we're able to facilitate answers to those types of questions and provide people with honest information that has one perspective and one perspective only, and that's the perspective of safety.
Yeah. And so then what does that look like from a consumer perspective? How can they engage with what you're doing and answer some of those questions? I mean, they can see the brand, maybe the vetting, but then what else goes on there?
Sure. So we're focused on promoting the message of safety, but also on advocacy as well. And there are certain places where we have worked closely to ensure that products that are sold meet safety standards, so that we know that there's a backing of safety. We also know that as more and more technologies are being sold online through online media and retailers, there's the threat of counterfeit devices as well. And so we're focused on providing consumers with as much information as possible to help inform their decisions.
Is it harder than ever to do what you're doing in a world where there are potentially bad actors out there who want to scam people and want to sell counterfeit things and maybe don't care as much about safety?
Well, as more and more companies, as more and more retailers are focused on safety, we're able to expand our partnerships. And that's one of the opportunities that we're consistently looking for, is ways to engage with more people both here in the US and abroad.
Got it. Tell me about mobility. Including autonomous vehicles, which is something I've talked about here with folks in the C-Space studio for years. It always seems like we're maybe just a few years away from ubiquitous self-driving cars, but even here in Las Vegas, you can see autonomous vehicles driving around. So clearly there's advances that are being made there. Where is UL Standards and engagement on those topics?
Sure, so autonomy is certainly a component of mobility, but it also relates to all the products that are in our homes and really connected to a larger ecosystem. And so we're not just thinking about individual products, but we're thinking about a system and a system of systems of how those devices relate to our day-to-day. Specific to mobility and specific to e-mobility, we've done quite a bit of work to advocate for laws that ensure that products that are sold meet safety requirements, helping to ensure and build that trust for consumers knowing what they're buying is safe.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought up laws. I would love to talk about how you engage with governments and how you engage with industry and what that kind of balance looks like. Where do you see yourselves playing there? And is the goal ultimately to get to a legal structure at the end of the day, or is that not always necessary? I'm asking a very broad question here, but I think this is a really interesting topic.
Sure. So it largely depends on the issue and the topic. Our goal is to ensure that people have the opportunity to buy products that they know are certified to meet safety standards. Yeah. And so we work in many cases with states, with municipalities, with the federal government to ensure that that information is available and clear. In some cases, it does necessitate or require some type of legal or regulatory framework, but much of what we're doing is about spreading information about what safety standards are and how people can look for that type of information when they're purchasing products.
And industry is generally down to partner with you, sounds like. This is a very collaborative thing.
We rely heavily on industry partnerships.
Mm-hmm. And does that look like people from different competitors kind of actually putting aside their competitive differences for the moment and coming together, sitting in a room, real or virtual, and hammering out safety standards together between these different companies?
Well, we don't create our standards in a vacuum. We rely heavily on the technical expertise from folks in industry, academia, and a number of other areas as well. And so many times those are folks who have that technical depth and expertise coming together to create standards that everybody can live by.
Yeah. And I imagine it may also just be good for business too, just to have that standard in mind, because then you don't have to worry about interoperability as much. But I imagine just having some entity set the standard is just good from a business perspective, even setting aside the obvious safety concerns.
We hear from both executives and consumers alike that standards and safety create a sense of certainty, and that's something that benefits industry. It also benefits everyday users of technology.
Yeah, because it's not just like I'm going to read the little pamphlet and look at the instruction necessarily. It's literally down to the fact, if I see a plug in this shape, I just know no matter who made it, it's going to be able to fit into this thing, and I'm going to be able to power my device. That maybe is a basic example, but that sort of trust is maybe what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So we talked about the advent of electricity with UL's origin story. We talked about battery operation, but all this is based on energy, and energy is transitioning now to more and more renewables. And obviously, there's continued questions around this here at here at CES and beyond. So, how is the energy transition affecting the work that you're doing?
Well, the energy transition is impacted by the work that we're doing in a number of ways. We know that battery technologies are powering much of that, everything from e-mobility to battery energy storage to data centers. And so we are working very collaboratively and closely to ensure that those elements are based on a sound safety science. And that helps ensure not only that people are interacting with technology safely, but it's also focused on some of the end use as well, things like battery recycling, for example. We can't get to that sustainable future without ensuring that our equipment is recycled properly.
Yeah. How much of your work is international and how much of it is on the national level?
We're an international organization. We focus quite a bit on collaboration, not just here in the US, but abroad as well.
And so what's your sense of the international, CES is an international show too. We see the world come together here to talk about technology in the future. But what's your sense in a world that some people might think is fragmented and people kind of wonder what the direction the world is going in sometimes? What's your sense of people's desire, from an industry perspective at least, to collaborate on these things cross-culturally, across borders and around the globe?
Well, there are no borders when it comes to safety. This is something that's a priority, not just here in the United States for manufacturers, but certainly for countries around the world. And so that's why we're focused on that type of collaboration.
Yeah. Are there other sustainability or innovation trends that you want to call out here that we're at CES 2026?
Well, I love being here because I get to learn about all of the different trends that exist, everything from the circularity piece that we talked about to how manufacturers are using AI technologies to reduce some of those carbon outputs. And so there's a lot of really exciting technology that's demonstrated here.
And so when you come to an event like this, do you feel mostly a sense of optimism? Do you ever look at something and you're like, ooh, that doesn't seem that safe. I'm the safety guy. I should be like looking at that a little bit more.
Well, I consider myself to be an optimist, but an optimist that worries a lot. And I think that there's a lot of technologies that are helping to offset some of that worry. But certainly our focus has to be consistently on safety. And so that's why we're here talking about that.
You can never lose that focus, right? Because the technology keeps evolving, and just when you think you've seen it all, something new shows up here at CES or beyond.
That's right.
Jeff Maruti and UL Standards and Engagement, thank you so much for joining us here in the C-Space studio.
Thanks, James.
And thank you so much. This is CES 2026. You're in the C-Space studio with me, James Kotecki. More coming up after this short break. Welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2026. I am James Kotecki, here with the president of U.S. Go-to-Market Ad Sales at Warner Brothers Discovery, Ryan Gould. So pleased that you could join us again. Thank you so much for coming back to the C-Space studio.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Okay, so what brings you to CES 2026 this year? What are you excited about?
Yeah, so, CES continues to be the intersection of, in our industry, entertainment and innovation, and we work really, really hard to not only engage fans on a day-to-day basis, but modernize our go-to-market approach from a B2B perspective. So a lot of our core partners are here, a lot of our clients are here, and it's a great way to kick off 2026.
What's some of the modernization from that perspective that you're talking about? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I think everyone's really talking about AI and how we can use AI to not only streamline current workflows, but create net new opportunities, not only for advertisers, but also to engage fans and audiences in new ways. So, I'd be remiss not to start this conversation off early to reference AI.
Well, let's get into that. I mean, I always think about it for these kind of conversations in relatively two buckets. One is kind of all the behind the scenes stuff, and then one is what a consumer might actually see from a creative perspective. But starting behind the scenes, I mean, this has been a conversation I've had in the C-Space studio for several years now about AI optimizing workflows and making people's jobs more efficient. How much more room do you think we have to run there? Are we still, as people sometimes say, early innings with this, or are people really getting a handle for how to make this more efficient?
Yeah, I think we're approaching the end of early innings, but I still think that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity and runway in front of us. When I think about AI internally and how we work on a day-to-day basis, I get really, really excited, but I'm also cautious because if you apply AI in a way that is an added layer, it can actually introduce additional complexities. Yeah. So you have to be very disciplined in onboarding AI. And then enablement, right? We've got a pretty large sales organization, so training our teams and training our workflow and infrastructure to adopt AI in meaningful ways is a challenge. Yeah. But the opportunity is worth it. I mean, not only can you free employees up to spend time on, quote, more high value work, but you can also get to market faster, you can decision better, and you can run a cleaner, more efficient business.
And when you were talking about the AI that you've added relatively recently behind the scenes, as I say, does the interface look like an LLM, or is that not how we should be thinking about AI in this case? Is it really more kind of the guts of the algorithms that are showing the data and the reports to people that's what AI is really talking about?
Yeah. It's a combination of both. So we leverage AI to enhance the system infrastructure that we have today, but we're also building net new features within our ad tech stack that wouldn't be possible without AI. So we've got a whole team working on this. We've been able to ship some pretty exciting opportunities and enhancements over the past couple years, and I'm really excited to see what 2026 brings us.
And what's your opinion on AI's value on the creative side, the front of the house, what consumers are actually experiencing? Sometimes we've seen people kind of not be as into AI ads or ads that are perceived as generated by AI, but where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I'm less excited about AI augmenting creative and content. I'm more excited about AI showing the right ads to the right people in the right context at the right time. I would argue that the human touch of creative, whether it's in advertising or content, is going to be relevant and needed for the long term. But I do think leveraging AI to enhance human creative is definitely the world that we'd like to move forward into.
And what are you measuring right now? What are you measuring as far as the definition of success for you right now? And is that changing, right? Because of the different kinds of data you can get and the different kinds of problems that you're needing to solve?
Yeah, so to zoom out a little bit, I go into the office every single day, and my definition of success is to create predictable, repeatable, reliable revenue. And, to double click on that, the way that we do that is we drive results for our clients. But not only for our clients, we need to drive results and performance for our clients that entice and engage our consumers. So if we support that ecosystem of us as a programmer, bringing advertisers into the fold, but exciting our fans and our consumers, and they show results, that creates reinvestment, and that creates that predictable, repeatable, reliable revenue. And performance is probably top of mind for every marketer and agency here at CES. But again, if you solely focus on performance, there's a lot of pitfalls in that, ROIing yourself out of market share, not focusing on brand and culture, so on and so forth. Yeah. So it's really a balance.
Tell me more about brand and culture. Is it the idea that you can have short-term gains, but long-term you can really hurt yourself if you're not careful?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think, again, if you look at return on advertising spend or just ROI, you can convince yourself through a spreadsheet and reporting that you're doing a really, really good job, right? I think if you zoom out to 6 to 12 months down the road, if you focus too much on ROI and not replenishing that funnel, your business could be in a pretty tough spot a year or so down the road.
And that maybe is, again, where you need a human brain, a human mind on that issue of like, yeah, these numbers look good, but I, as a person who also maybe kind of consumes this content or just understands this experience as a human, know that this isn't optimal, so we shouldn't be doing it that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do people trust even less in today's media market? It seems like the trust issue is a very challenging one for all media companies right now. How do you build trust and community in an environment where it's increasingly fractured? Not just because of AI, that's one factor, but many factors.
Yeah, so I think the first pillar of establishing trust is being predictable and transparent, right? So when I say being predictable, it's offering consistency, right? It's consistency in the type of ways that you produce content, the talent and personnel that is behind the camera and in front of the camera. But it's also being very transparent. And if I think about the B2B trust dynamics, it's in where are your ads running, how did they perform, are we being ultra transparent in pricing and where pricing's going. And then from the B2C perspective, it's much of the same. I think, again, if you look at the streaming and direct-to-consumer landscape, there's a ton of volatility in the price. There's a ton of changes in the ad load. So, again, if you ultimately serve as a programmer and a media owner, if you serve those two consumers, B2B and B2C, with transparency and predictability, I think that those two pillars are a great start to establishing and building trust.
And from a consumer perspective, not that all the content is completely formulaic and predictable that way, but more that if I see the Warner Brothers Discovery logo in front of some content that I'm viewing, I can be confident that it's going to be good content. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, we absolutely would hope so and agree with that. At Warner Brothers Discovery, we spend, a lot of time, energy, and effort making sure that we have professionally produced content across all platforms that not only engages but is rooted in credibility and trust. I'm thinking about CNN right now. Again, there's so many different platforms that we program towards consumers on. And again, we need to maintain that authenticity, but also credibility and build trust.
For advertisers looking at programmatic, are there trends or issues there that you think folks are missing, but you have your finger on the pulse of that you can call out for us now?
Yeah, programmatic is definitely in a state of maturity. And I think that we've moved past the need to effectively target audiences programmatically. Where I think we're going is really looking at the supply paths and supply path optimization in the supply chain. The reality is that there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of noise within the programmatic pipes. They do perform and you are able to target audiences across all platforms, but I think that there is a movement to ensuring that that the supply path is clean and it's direct to premium experiences and audiences.
Do you think we have, this is a silly question maybe, but do you think we have enough data now? Like, do we just need to use the data that we have in better and more thoughtful ways? Or is there still some data out there that you don't have yet but that you want to get?
Yeah, frankly speaking, I think that we have too much data at our fingertips and to
know what matters.
Yeah, and there is definitely an opportunity for more data to be used in decisioning, and not only programmatic, but direct relationships between media owners and advertisers. I would say that as an industry, we need to do a better job of honing in on the right data and the data that's most meaningful to that ecosystem that I referenced earlier. Are we driving value for brand advertisers, and are we driving value for our consumers? We need the data that fuels that result.
Well, it's always great to talk to you here in the C-Space studio. We hope that you come back yet again. Ryan Gould, Warner Brothers Discovery's president of U.S. Ad Sales Go-to-Market. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. See you next year.
And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you very soon. I'm James Kotecki here in the C-Space studio at CES 2026. More after this short break. Welcome back to the C-Space studio. I'm your host, James Kotecki. Very happy to be here at CES 2026 and very happy to be here with the head of sales at Intuit SMB Media Labs, Meg Beaudet. Meg, welcome to the C-Space studio.
Thank you so much, James. It's so nice to be here.
How's your CES going so far?
Fantastic. Very busy.
Okay, so we were just talking a little bit before we started rolling. Intuit is a big family of different brands, but tell me what Intuit SMB Media Labs is all about.
I would love to. So Intuit SMB Media Labs is a small division of Intuit, and we are a B2B commerce media network using Intuit data to target small business owners and decision makers across the open web.
Okay, so tell me more about what that looks like and what kind of data that you're able to bring to the situation that maybe other people don't have access to.
Sure. So our data is rooted in QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is financial software that's
the source of truth for many businesses.
Exactly. That
Mine
most
too.
Really.
As a small business owner, as an independent contractor.
I love it. I love it. So most small business owners in the United States are using QuickBooks to run their business, and we found, as a marketer, QuickBooks trying to get new small business owners, that it's very hard to find them. And so we have that information deterministically. We can say these are small business owners and decision makers, and we can help other companies reach those small business owners with products and services that will help their companies grow.
Yeah, I want to get into why you're here at CES 2026, but one question about this is, when this was set up, how was it done in a way to maybe mitigate concerns around, hey, I just uploaded all this private financial information so I can do my taxes. I wasn't trying to get targeted by some,
Absolutely.
Tell me more about that thought process.
So, and I would say that privacy is at the center of everything we do, because it is your life, your company's life, that we have access to the data for. And so everything that we do on the Media Lab side of things is de-identified.
Yeah.
So it's all privacy safe, privacy first, with that at the center of what we're doing.
So what brings you to CES 2026?
So we are, right now, our audiences are available in a few different DSP partners that we're working with. And so we are about to expand into the CTV space.
Okay.
And so we're talking to some new partners and also talking to a lot of our clients are here at CES, kicking off the year, talking about what their marketing plans are going to look like for 2026. And from a few people I've talked to so far, 2026 is the year of B2B.
Okay.
So that works for us.
But B to small or medium sized,
Yes.
probably.
B
right?
to SMB.
Yeah. So what does the data that you have tell you? Obviously de-identified, generalized, what have you, but are there interesting trends that you can call out for us that you see in the data?
There are. The first and foremost, just knowing that this is a small business owner is really important. The data that was out in the market previously was modeled data, and oftentimes it might be a small business owner, but you didn't deterministically know that it was.
Okay.
So that in and of itself is really important. And then we know a lot of ranges. So what revenue range is this company in, and what stage is the company in of their life cycle, what industry they're in, and what they might be in the market for.
And so what are some of the things that small and medium-sized businesses need or want, or what, if I'm an advertiser trying to reach them, what does it mean about how I should communicate with that person as opposed to another kind of business?
So I'd say that it really is different. If you are a small business owner, you live it and breathe it.
Yeah.
And so being able to see a message about a more affordable cell phone service or insurance that you might need when you're going about your daily life really hits home and is really impactful, and that's what we're seeing in the results that our clients are getting.
Small business owners, they do everything.
They
So
do.
It's not like you're coming to me as the head of a division of a large company and I'm only caring about one sliver of it. I do have to care about the cell phone service and cleaning the bathroom,
Exactly.
HR and financial and everything else, right?
They're thinking about the entirety of their company all the time.
How do you see consumer attention patterns changing? So thinking about the data that you have on the advertising side as to what people are actually paying attention to, how is that shifting and how are you keeping up?
So I think that that's the beauty of what we're offering. It's really helping with that shrinking attention span that we have out there. And so that you can really pinpoint the right person that you want to talk to with the right messaging at the right time. Because they don't have a lot of time to waste. That's one thing about small business owners. They're incredibly busy, and they don't have a lot of time to waste. So really making sure your message hits home with them, you'll make stronger connections.
And are you helping people or finding that people are adapting their messages for a Gen Alpha, a Gen Z audience, especially as they start to become business owners?
So that's a great question. So we did some research on the QuickBooks side of things, just asking folks in different age groups how likely they were to start their own company, and the younger the person is, the more likely they are to start their own company. And so we're really thinking about the Gen Z, Gen Alpha as the next generation of small business owners and what they want to see and do. They're really discriminating. You have to meet them where they are and in their interest buckets. So that it's really important.
So they don't want to see a generic ad.
Absolutely not.
Some kind of business ownership. It's interesting too. I wonder if the resources for those generations are also just better than ever to start a small business, where you can easily reach out to any kind of contractor or vendor that you might need to put together a small bit. I mean, people have talked about this idea of maybe one day there'll be a $1 trillion company with just one person at it, not just because of vendors, but obviously AI. And we see that, right, with small and medium businesses. What I should actually ask: is the definition of small and medium based on employees, or is it based on revenue?
So from our point of view, it's based on number of employees.
Okay.
So most of the companies in our data set are under 100 employees, and the majority of them are under 20 employees.
Okay.
So these are genuinely quite small businesses.
Yeah, but that's
and a lot of small businesses actually are one person.
Sure, absolutely, but that's where that mythical $1 trillion one person unicorn is going to come.
I mean,
in.
it definitely
could still be
will.
within your purview.
I think it will.
Yeah. Where do you see streaming coming into play for you, and what are the opportunities there?
So streaming is an incredible opportunity for us because that's still the biggest screen. It's still the most important, most effective marketing vehicle, and the ability to add our hyper targeting to streaming really changes the game for advertisers. So it might have been in the past that your bigger brand campaign ran on TV, and you were trying to make a sale with your digital display or some lead gen part of your campaign. But now you can get real precise results with your CTV campaigns, and that's the magic sauce for what we're doing.
Yeah. It strikes me too, there's also plenty of content about being a hustler, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. So to the extent that SMB people want to watch that kind of stuff,
Absolutely. There's lots of great premium content out there about the world of small business owners, and it's a place we should be.
And how are you thinking about reaching these audiences across multiple platforms, right? Because you mentioned that streaming might be the biggest screen. It's certainly not the only one, and people are all over the place.
Absolutely not. So we are platform agnostic, if you will. So we're available in DSPs right now, but our plan going forward is to be available for digital display, audio, streaming, CTV, anywhere where we can port our data safely. And with those privacy guardrails, we would like for the customer, the advertiser, to be able to see results from our data and then take it to all the different parts of their campaign, wherever that might be.
Do you also get economic data? Do you have a sense of the economy is better or worse because we can kind of see in the data what small businesses
So that's a great question. So there is a report that Intuit puts out. I think it's quarterly or might be 2 times a year. That is a highly used economic report that the government cites all the time. Because we have a lot of data coming in from the companies we work with.
As we wrap up here in the C-Space studio, what's something outside of your industry that inspires you to innovate and go forward?
Something?
Yeah.
Someone? Okay. So one of my favorite follows right now is a podcast I love, hosted by someone named Vivian Tu. I don't know if you know her, but she has a podcast called Net Worth and Chill, and she helps to demystify finance.
Yeah.
She was a trader herself on Wall Street, and
she have this moniker of your rich bestie.
Yeah,
rich BFF.
your rich
yep.
BFF.
Seen her.
So I love her, and I am taking what she says to heart, giving my financial advisor some advice after listening to her advice. And I even joined an investing club as for my New Year, New Me resolution.
So even someone who works for Intuit and has access to all this data still has more to learn, folks. You can never stop learning. And that's inspirational for all of us. Meg Bodette of Intuit SMB Media Labs, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, James. It's so nice chatting with you.
And thank you so much for watching. Coming up next, we're talking to Viant Technology and MasterCard. So stay tuned after the break. I'm James Kotecki, CES 2026 in the C Space Studio. Welcome back to the C-Space studio. You're here with me at CES 2026. I am James Kotecki, and I'm joined by the Viant Technology co-founders, Tim Vanderhook, CEO, Chris Vanderhook, COO. They are brothers, if you couldn't tell, and they are back with us. Thanks for joining us again here in the C-Space studio.
Thanks for having us. Great to see you, James.
Really appreciate it. What brings you to CES 2026, Tim?
We've got a new release of Viant AI, and we're here to show it off, and it's been a fantastic release and product available for our customers. The big important factor is where Viant AI, the original version, was a co-pilot. It would help humans get the job done.
Yeah.
Now, with the newest release, we launched a lattice brain, so it's got all these signals coming in as the input, and it's now making every decision for the human. So much more of an autopilot while you sit there and watch it drive versus co-pilot.
What is a lattice brain, Chris?
A lattice brain is essentially, think about a piece of lattice that you might put in your garden, or the way that looks.
It's like like wood, like
yeah,
exactly.
wood lattice. And basically it just signifies that there's multiple inputs coming in at the same time, and you must make a decision in a second. Think about, self-driving cars.
Yeah.
They have LiDAR, they have cameras, they have, whatever happens on the street, it has to make a decision like a human would instantly. It can't call back to a data center, and there can't be latency. We need to make real-time decisions.
Yeah.
So that's really what the lattice brain is.
And so tell me about the human experience of using it then. Is it really just kind of, I'm sitting back and I'm watching things happen on the screen. Am I able to intervene if I want to? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Humans always in control. The AI can't run away with your money and do whatever it wants. So the supervision is always there. One thing that's very unique about Viant AI versus our competitors that offer products is ours is fully transparent. So every website you're at is going to show up on ahead of time. And if there's a problem with that website, you can intervene and say, I don't like that site. Mobile apps, websites, all the different locations we can place an ad. So humans are always in control of Viant AI, and it's just doing the rote work that no one really wants to do. Sure. Setting up a campaign, deciding which partners should be on it. It takes all that decision making and does it in a blink of an eye.
Where do you find that humans are still best to be involved? Because I imagine there's some things where the human might second guess the machine, and they shouldn't have done that. It was better to leave it for the machine to make that decision. But where are humans still best operating?
Definitely humans have context that an AI does not.
Yeah.
Right. They have all the context. They understand, the strategy. They understand conversations that are happening in the office. They know those. What an AI knows really well is much of this that Viant AI does is essentially a math problem, and it's doing computation at a speed that humans really don't want to do, and they can't because they got to go to sleep. They got to use the restroom. We got to eat. All those things. So we really see that it's elevating the humans, from doing this rote work, allowing them to be more strategic, more creative, focus on the business results, as opposed to, pulling levers in these DSPs and managing ad campaigns, very tediously.
This is a question to either of you, do you see it continuing to evolve? Because this is great messaging, and I respect it and I believe it for now, but I just wonder, based on where AI goes, are there more and more things that it is able to do that even if the human wanted to do, it's just going to do it better? Is that the path that we're on ultimately?
I think yes, for many things, but not all things in life.
Yeah.
So if it's like driving is a great example. I prefer Tesla full self-driving now that it's really working well. 5 years ago, it was not great. It was, cruise control at best.
Yeah.
So I do think many tasks will be replaced with AI, but that doesn't mean humans are out of a job. Humans are best at critical thinking and problem solving. When we talk about the word strategic, that's really where humans excel.
Yeah. Do you think parts of AI have been overhyped, underhyped? Where do you see the hype cycle right now?
I think the hype is real, if you ask me. So I would say nothing's been overhyped. We're probably underhyping the long-term impact of AI.
Because this is an interesting messaging thing too, right? So if I've been having these conversations for years here in the C-Space studio, I've seen the up and down of excitement about it. And I don't want to, people are more concerned about it now. There's people that are like, no, we really want these things to be human, and we're always going to mandate that they be human because people are concerned about hallucinations, et cetera. What do you think about that?
I think that I see the problems that a lot of LLMs have, and I think I agree with Tim. I don't think we totally understand the impact of AI. I think that some people aren't seeing it through the right lens. A lot of people are just focused on job replacement, and I really do believe that there will be a large elevation of people
and companies that I think is way underhyped. I don't think that we have seen AI being integrated into companies to actually help them work better, and then to then deliver better consumer experiences. I think we're not even in the first inning. Yeah. ChatGPT is essentially what people's interactions with AI is of some sort, or that application. And I just think we have no idea like how cool the future applications are going to be. So yeah. But you know what? ChatGPT is not great at math. Overhyped. How about that? There we go.
It seems like the best examples I've seen are when AI meets still a very skilled, very judiciously operating, human that can actually have great taste and make good decisions, put it together. And then there are things, even from a creative perspective, where I'm like, wow, I actually am enjoying this thing unironically, without the fact that I know the novelty of AI, but I just like this thing that was created, even if I know that AI was a part of it, because clearly a human was behind it making a lot of these decisions.
Yes, absolutely. The human always provides the expertise for the AI to learn from, but then once it has that context, we call it, the AI can actually do it over and over and over again and make a similar decision to the human that helped create it.
How advanced is generative AI for you right now, and how much better do you think it's going to get?
It's very advanced internally. We use generative AI both internally, externally. It's all across the board. Generative AI is only going to keep getting better. Right now, we're talking about ChatGPT and text, but the audio, the visuals, music, if you've ever played with Suno AI, it's incredible.
Yeah.
We just made a song with it for our Lattice Brain launch. Chris and I created the lyrics, posted it to Suno,
Love it.
and the song is phenomenal. The production quality or the consumer experience, you can't believe this was created by us, who have zero musical talents. We wrote really good lyrics. That was the benefit. But from there, it's just been incredible, and it's going to keep blowing our minds.
How about CTV? Is that blowing your mind right now, Chris?
CTV has so many tailwinds that we're excited about. Of course, there's a consumer shift that's been well underway. There's still another $60+ billion in linear television that's moving into streaming. A lot of that has been held up by live sports, but we're seeing live sports now going almost exclusively into streaming. I think that's very great for marketers. They have always loved television. It's always been about half of a large marketer's budget. But they love on CTV, they love that it's addressable. They can actually measure it. They know, which programs and which investments are working, which ones aren't. And we're seeing it drive a lot of value for our customers in terms of their business results. At the end of the day, we're in the business of our customers' business. We have to get our customers must be successful. We have to drive Wall Street numbers for our customers, not just advertising campaign numbers. And CTV is a big part of that. And we know how valuable that channel is to them. So very excited about many things in CTV.
Just to add to that, CTV for Viant is the fastest growing channel. It's the biggest channel in our platform. And we made a great acquisition last year of a company called Iris TV. So now, most people don't know this, but when you buy CTV, you get to know the app name, like Paramount Plus, but you don't get to know the show name. That's very different than when you buy linear TV. I can put my ad on the Masters Golf Tournament or on CBS. So we acquired Iris TV to bring that same level of intelligence into streaming, where you get to know the show and now more importantly, the scene that's happening on the TV, which gives you an idea of the emotional state of that room right before your ad runs.
I want to talk to you about your philosophy around walled gardens and places where people want to keep the AI and the data kind of walled off, and versus having kind of a broader picture of the whole industry. I suppose that's kind of a leading question because I think I know where you're going with it. But tell me about your philosophy and how you see the industry, and maybe where you see yourselves as different.
Yeah, we view the future is the open web, not walled gardens. We are there to power the open web, independent content owners and CTV, independent publishers in the traditional web. We want to help power and monetize their users that they have and make sure that they're getting the ad revenue that's there. Walled gardens are great, but they keep all the money, all the profits, and no one grows but Google, but Amazon, but Apple. So you've got these, or Meta, you've got these problems out there of content owners and publishers. Where's the ad revenue for them to continue to have their voice heard? And this is what the open web is all about, that anyone can contribute their voice. And if lots of people follow it, you should get the spoils of that ad revenue and have growth too.
Okay, lightning round, last question. One word each, only one word to define 2026. Chris?
This is going to be lame. Exciting. You said one word.
There's nothing lame about being excited. We want to be
I
excited.
was thinking of a better one, but
we want to be excited
we
about
are. We are.
My one
exciting.
word for 2026 is autonomy.
Yeah.
This is where AI is at. It's all about having AI do more and more, less human involvement, more AI involvement of it taking the reins and driving the wheel.
Tim and Chris Vanderhook of Viant Technology, thank you so much for joining me in the C-Space studio today. Autonomous excitement is coming, and we're very excited that you could both share it.
There we go.
Thank you, James.
Well, thank you so much for watching. This is another episode of the C-Space studio here at CES 2026. Another great conversation with me. Your host, James Kotecki, is just ahead. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the C-Space studio with me, James Kotecki. We're here at CES 2026 and very excited to be joined by MasterCard's Executive Vice President of Commerce Media and Innovation, Neely Klenoff. Neely, welcome to the C-Space studio.
You. Great to be here.
Okay, so commerce media. First of all, can we define some of these terms? So what is your purview as talking about commerce media?
Commerce media in general is where you've got brands connecting with consumers across publishing environments where you're using first-party data ultimately to be able to personalize those insights and the content that's being shown to them and ultimately measure the results.
So what's exciting there in the world of commerce media these days at the beginning here of 2026?
Well, for me personally, we launched MasterCard Commerce Media, which is our commerce media solution, back in October of this year. It is a channel where advertisers can reach consumers with personalized content across a private network of publishers. And so we are really excited to build on the momentum that we've created. Trust and connection, super important in an AI-led world, and that's what we're all about.
Tell me about some of the data that you're able to bring to bear in that situation.
Yeah, listen, it's a core part of our value proposition. We see roughly 160 billion transactions that cross our network, and so we're able to leverage the insights from those transactions to be able to identify the right audience for the right piece of content and really hyper-personalize, right? It's one-to-one targeting, right message to the right consumer at the right time.
Yeah, and then how does that work in terms of like privacy and opt-in, opt-out, all those kind of things? Like as a consumer, what's your message to how they're being treated in that process?
That's a really great question. So all of our data is consented. Consumers opt in, they can opt out at any time. And so that's first and foremost, the principle at play, but we've got a bunch of other kind of data privacy and responsibility practices that are really woven into everything that we do. Privacy by design, our privacy teams are embedded with our teams from the moment of kind of ideation all the way through to execution. The tech itself, we've got kind of layers of technology that are protecting the data from a storage standpoint, from a security standpoint, even kind of when we're actually in real time using it to personalize content. And then overall, we've got data responsibility practices at play that we use, everything from minimizing the data, control, the consumer's always in control of their data, transparency. They can always understand how and when their data is being utilized. Inclusion, our algorithms are always being tested for bias, really. So it's really woven into the fabric of everything that we do and really part of our brand promise.
But if I decide to opt in and go for everything as a consumer, what are some of the experiences that I'm able to have? What are some of the, as a consumer, what am I experiencing if I am opting into all this?
So as I said before, this shows up to consumers across a network of publishers who are participating in our platform and ultimately are doing that through a connection to our proprietary technology. And so the whole idea is to meet the consumers where they are. We know consumers are interacting now everywhere, right, across platforms, devices, channels, environments. Brands need to be able to reach consumers, right, where those touch points are happening, where those interactions are happening. So you could be in your bank app, you could be in your airline experience, you could be at a retailer, you could be in an agentic environment. These are all the types of publishers that are participating in our network. And for you, it's seamless, right? We are using, again, the insights, your individual spending patterns to be able to target the right message to you. And that could be a digital ad, it could also be a well-timed incentive, right? A discount or an offer for a particular brand that either you've tried before, or maybe that brand wants to drive increased frequency and recency with you, so they have the opportunity to do that.
I mean, in many ways, we are the sum of our experiences. And so when my wife and I are like reviewing our credit card statement every month, it's like, oh yeah, we went to that fun restaurant or we did this fun thing. And it's like, yeah, when you think about all those transactions and you weave all that together, you can get a pretty good picture of who someone is, right?
Who somebody is, and again, I want to kind of bring it back to, again, what the brand's objectives are, right? We sit down, we work with brands to try to understand what is it that you want to do. Do you want to increase reach? Do you want to kind of reach new cohorts of consumers? Do you want to get them to, transact with you more frequently? Do you want to target lapsed consumers, right? And so that's how we're leveraging a lot of the insights that we can see to help them ultimately achieve whatever those business imperatives are.
Are there things that brands, some brands maybe don't understand about commerce media? Is there pieces of education that you find yourself doing?
There's a few things. So I'd highlight a few. We touched on a couple, but I'll kind of just go back to them. First and foremost, it's just the power of that data, right? Yeah. The billions of transactions across our network, and being able to put that data to use to personalize content, but also close the loop on the attribution. Yeah. It's online and it's in store, and most transactions are still happening in store, so that's super powerful. The scale, the reach, we have got 500 million consumers already connected through our participating publishers. That number is growing. Brands can reach those consumers, and it's not just kind of in local markets, it's across the globe, because we're able to reach those consumers with the right message when they're traveling abroad. And obviously we have the insights to be able to do that and know kind of what those destinations are and when those moments are happening. And then the last is the proprietary tech itself, right? We've got our card linking technology, which allows us to link the incentives, the discounts directly to the cards, the transactions, so you can really provide that closed loop attribution. Okay. And then the targeting is one-to-one, right? It is, our brands can kind of identify the audiences, but at the end of the day, when it shows up to the consumer, we can see the consumer, and we are able to actually pick the right message for that individual consumer at the right time.
And how do brands react to this? I mean, is it like closing a gap between what they have had and what they actually needed all along?
Absolutely, right? I mean, again, you think about what brands are looking for. They're looking for scale, they're looking for increased reach, they're looking for efficacious marketing channels, and ultimately to be able to demonstrate the outcomes, tied back to their marketing activities. It's not just about chasing impressions, right? It's about actually delivering results. And I think that's really where we come in, which is really in the outcomes that we can drive, and really kind of, best in class outcomes, because of the insights and the tech and the scale that we have to be able to understand who the consumer is, what is the right piece of content to put in front of them at this moment, and then ultimately demonstrate not just the result, but the incrementality on top of that, right? That this sale wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this particular piece of content going in front of the consumer.
And then do you give brands advice on how to create, or do you have advice for brands on how to create advertising content that feels native and natural to the consumer experience?
Yeah, everything we do is native, it's embedded. Again, I go back to the private marketplace of connected publishers. They're connected in through our proprietary technology. And so the creative itself is actually kind of integrated, embedded into the experience itself. It's seamless. It's also multi-channel, right? It could be in a web, it could be in the app, it could be in an email, it could be in a statement, it could be through the wallet channel, right? We're kind of continuing to expand those touch points, those ways to distribute the content to the consumer. When it's seamless, when it's consistent, that's what creates that value, and that's what keeps the consumers interacting and ultimately delivers the value back to the brands.
Do you spend much time in your world thinking about the fact that many credit card transactions do not actually involve someone taking out a physical card? I mean, even in a physical store where you're saying most purchases still take place, I'm often taking out, maybe it's my phone to do the transaction. You can easily imagine a world where biometrics play a role. So it's really just kind of about linking it to me as a human. It's less about the card per se. And then of course online, all those things are happening. So do you think about that a lot in terms of how you're thinking about the future?
Absolutely, right? Again, consumers are interacting everywhere, and it's across many different devices and form factors in terms of the instrument that's being used to perform the payment. I think for us, those are all just signals that we can use to enhance the purchase signals. Yeah. They're more data points that help us, again, resolve back to the individual consumer, understand their preferences, and ultimately help the brands be able to target the right messages to those consumers based on the aggregation of all that data.
Almost out of time, but I want to ask you one big picture question. Is there some kind of fundamental change that you sense in the wind for 2026?
I mean, it's kind of obvious, but agentic is obviously everywhere. I think the thing that I would highlight is we're going to very quickly see this shift from agent as the point of discovery to agents as autonomously performing buying on behalf of customers. And you can imagine a world where these agents are negotiating discounts on your behalf, maybe applying loyalty points, right? They're kind of going well beyond, right? Even what we're imagining in terms of actually just making and executing the purchase itself. And so I think it's just really important for brands to work with partners, right? To ensure that they are relevant and present in those moments as we shift from discovery to purchase.
And my gosh, questions about trust, questions about privacy and personalization, all those are just tenfold, if not more, in a world where the agent is out there on my behalf. I hope it's doing the right thing on my behalf, but it's got my credit card, so I need to make sure that it is.
That's right. And listen, that's why MasterCard is at the forefront, right, of the work in this space. Our brand is synonymous with trust, right? That is decades of safeguarding transactions and preventing fraud and cybersecurity risks. So, we are hopefully a partner of choice.
Neely Klenoff, MasterCard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. So great to be here.
And it's so great to have you with us here all morning in the C-Space studio. We have been talking to marketing, media, and advertising leaders, and it's time for us as still very human people to take a quick break. But we are going to have an afternoon session starting at 1 p.m. with more conversations, more incredible guests. So please, wherever you are seeing this live, come back here in about an hour at 1 p.m. California time, Pacific time, and we'll see you there. I'm James Kotecki, your host for the C-Space studio at CES 2026.